Hello boys and girls, and welcome to this week's WAC. This week's WAC is all about fractions. We're going to try and add and subtract fractions that have unlike denominators. So first, what is a fraction? Well, fractions are anything that is less than, let's see if I can do this, less than 1. And it's also going to be greater lovely handwriting here, than 0. So it's less than 1 and greater than 0. Anything between 0 and 1 on the number line. Stuff like decimals, your percents, you've got a fraction is that same type of thing. That stuff that's less than a whole but greater than 0. So there are parts of a fraction. You've got up top here, Norman, or the numerator. Oh my goodness. Okay. Then you've got the bottom of your fraction. The bottom of the fraction, come over here, pen, is your denominator. That's the bottom of your fraction. If you were to have this written out, this is your A, B form. Pretend that looks more like an A, B form. Or you think of it as this first number, 1, is being divided by, giving out on me, 2. Yeah. Divided by 2. I'm writing it. Divided by. Let me go back to the pen. Let's try a different color. Divided by. Nope, just lots of dots. All right, well, pretend you know that there it is. 1 divided by 2. We're just going to give up on that. Pretend that you saw that right now. Moving on. Fractions. Well, here are some facts about fractions. Fractions can be used to name a part of a whole region, so like 1/3. A fraction has a numerator that tells you the equal parts that you have. So the red part, the numerator, is telling you the amount of parts. The denominator is telling you those pieces, the amount that is divided up. The whole region, the way that it's divided, the pieces, is that denominator. Fractions are equivalent if they name the same parts. So you have 2/4 is the same as 1/2 because they name the same parts, so they're equivalent. Fractions can have different numerators, but the name is the same. Okay, that's the same thing as the last thing, isn't it? Fractions can have different numerators and denominators, but they have the same fractional amount. So like right here, you've got 1/3 and 2/6 is the same size. Wonderful. Now, here is a pie cut into 6 pieces. The pieces, here's the key word here, your pieces are your denominator. So I know this is going to be a fraction out of 6. It says, a man will eat 2 pieces of pie and the lady is eating 1 piece of pie. Maybe she's not as hungry as he is. How much did they eat altogether? So you've got his 2 out of 6, plus her 1 out of 6. Together, we already have the same denominator, so you know that it's going to be 6. And that would be 1, 2, that's his 2, and then her 1. That makes 3/6. Wonderful. Touch the picture to what? Let's see if they reveal it. No. Oh, there it is, the little pieces. 2 6 plus 1 6 equals 3 6. Wonderful, having their lovely dessert. Moving on, that's when there is a same denominator. There are situations where you have an unlike denominator, so let's talk about that. You've got to make sure that the denominators are the same. Oh, I want that to disappear for me. Make sure the denominators are the same. You've got to look at the numerators. You've got to add the numerators if the denominators are the same, and leave the denominators alone. Once you have that common denominator, you have it. You're not going to be subtracting or adding the bottom, just the tops once you've got a common denominator. So again, these are another example of how you would get it if it was the same denominator. I want to do... Okay, I found two fractions with unlike denominators, but they were subtracting. So let's do a quick adding one, and then we'll do subtracting. So let's say if you had 1/2 plus 2/3. Right now the denominator is not the same, but you could make them the same by doing times 3 on the bottom. And if you do times 3 on the bottom, you get times 3 on the top. And I'm picking 3 because that's the denominator of this other fraction. And then we're going to do the opposite here. Since we did times 3 on that one, we're going to do times 2. And we're going to do times 2. So this becomes 3/6. And this becomes 4/6. And then we're going to add those together. Now that we've got the same denominator, you already know the denominator is going to be 6. And let's take our 3 plus 4 and get 7/6. So that's adding. And now let's use this one here for subtracting. We want a common denominator. So if you could think of a least common multiple, you can use that. And if you can't think of one, just multiply the denominators by each other. I'm going to take this one times 3, and I'm going to take this one times 5. Whatever I do to the bottom, I do to the top. So whatever I do to the bottom, I do to the top. Let's make room here. Going to erase some of this. Oh, that's not an eraser. Let's erase some of this so we have room. Okay, back to the pen. Let's finish this up. This would become 5 over 3 times 5 is 15. I'm getting this information from down here. And same thing here. I'm going to take this information and we're going to say this became 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 5 is 15. Now let's subtract this time. We already know that our denominator is going to be 15. So what is, oh, that's terrible, 15. Let's write over here. 15. Then what is 3 minus from 5? And you would get 2 over 15. The point of this whole video is to remember that when you add and subtract fractions, you have got to get a common denominator. I am not going to try to write that. Okay, I'm kind of trying to write that, but not very successfully. Common denominator before you add or subtract. Get that bottom to be the same. If it's the same, you're good to go. If it's not, you have to make it the same. Thank you for doing this week's WAC. I want you to go ahead and make sure that you write the summary. Feel free to rewatch this video if that helps. You need to write your summary with at least 3 sentences. Make nice, complete sentences using periods and capitalize the beginning of your sentence. Your question needs to also go along with this and get that submitted and turned in by Thursday. Thank you. Actually, I think we might have till Friday this week since it's a 4-day week. Talk to your teacher about that.